Burnout is a personal story for me. You see, back in 2019, that was probably one of the hardest years of my family's life. We had 4 separate tragedies that impacted people close to us. And meanwhile, I had a toddler who was constantly teething and ear infections, and I basically didn't sleep for a year. And I kept turning up to work on my job on the palliative care ward. And so that's the first thing that I want us to remember today, is that we don't know what's going on in the lives of people around us. We don't know what's going on for that patient who we meet in the ED. And we don't know what else is going on, because all of us have an emotional bucket. And sometimes that bucket is just really full. For people living with complex care needs, with disability, for people recovering, oftentimes that bucket is already pretty full. And we don't know what else is going on. I didn't tell my colleagues at work what was happening for me behind the scenes. But that year I was exhausted already before I even got to work. But then on Christmas Eve, my husband texted me while I was at work looking after somebody else's family to say that my mother-in-law had just passed away. And that was the beginning of the tipping point for me. You see, that Christmas I looked after 3 different families on the palliative care ward. In bed 15, there was June, who had 2 daughters in their 20s, and she passed away just before Christmas. And then in bed 29, there was Jenny. And Jenny had the exact same birth date as me. And so every time I checked her armband for her date of birth, it was like a dagger into my soul, thinking that could be me in that hospital bed. A reminder to live each day to its fullest. But then finally, there was Vera. And Vera had 2 little boys who were about the same age as mine. And she was in her final weeks, suffering from kidney cancer. I'd had a couple of days off and came back expecting that she would have passed. But her 83-year-old mum said, "She's been waiting for you. She wants you here for her boys." And so sure enough, as often happens, she did pass that day, while her husband and sons were at the swimming carnival. And so when they arrived at the hospital, I took them aside into a little room and I asked those little boys, did they want to draw a picture for their mum? And so they both drew pictures of giraffes, and they said that was their mum's favourite animal. And they wanted to give those pictures to their mum. But the little one kept asking, what time? What time did Mummy die? What time did Mummy die? And I thought, this is really important. I said, why? Why is this important to you? And he looked up at me with these big brown eyes and he said, because I want to know if Mummy was already an angel and watched me win my race at the swimming carnival. And I crouched down and looked in those little eyes and I said, sweetheart, your Mummy was an angel in heaven and she would have been cheering with all of heaven's angels when you won your race. But that was the moment that my heart broke into 1,000 pieces, of thinking of my own children at home. And after that, I was never the same. I turned up to this job that I used to love, feeling like a robot. And I remember our ward clerk saying, "Oh, Sarah, the guy in bed 30 needs something." And I just remember looking at her with these tired, sad eyes and saying, "Kimmy, care factor 0 right now." She's like, "Whoa, if your care factor's 0, what hope do the rest of us have?" Because I was so known for my empathy and my care of those patients. And so I went through the movements of doing my job. I wish that I'd reached out to EAP services. I wish I told my colleagues what was going on for me. I wish that I'd gotten the help that I needed, but I didn't. And so that's the next thing that I want to leave you, that some of us are experiencing burnout today. Some of us are feeling like that bucket is already full and there's a couple more rocks being thrown in and it's just overflowing. And we need to make sure that we're getting access to the help and the services that we need.